Students, we'll continue with the chapter. Indigo will just, I think so, the last page is left of it. So let's finish that. So one thing that we have realized, it's about Gandhi's way of working. He did not resort to violence. And yes, he involved the people in it. And any kind of movement is successful when the people are involved, when they know that, yes, what we are doing is for our benefit, right? And that is how the authorities also will see, when they see the unity of the people, when they see that, yes, they are adamant on reaching or on getting this justice. So they also start taking action. Otherwise, here it was unheard of before that the Britishers or the landlords or the higher authorities would bow down before the demands of the local people. But here it happened. And that incident happened in Champaran, right? So the sharecropping, it was a turning point and for everyone. So whether it was about Mahatma Gandhi, whether it was for the peasants, the Indian peasants, okay? So it was a very, very important event. Let us read this page. I'll discuss it and then we come to the question answers. The Champaran episode was a turning point in Gandhi's life. What I did, he explained, was a very ordinary thing. I declared that the British could not order me about in my own country. So he said, I just did a very simple thing. That was, yeah, like they cannot order me around. They can't tell me what to do. But Champaran did not begin as an act of defiance to go against the authorities. It was not that. How did it begin? Rajkumar Shukla went to meet Gandhi. He wanted him to relieve them from this problem they were facing, right? This injustice that was happening. It was not a revolution that they had thought. It grew out of an attempt to alleviate the distress of large numbers of poor peasants. This was the typical Gandhi pattern. His politics were intertwined with the practical day-to-day problems of the millions. His was not a loyalty to abstractions, it was a loyalty to living human beings. In everything Gandhi did, moreover, he tried to mold a new free Indian who could stand on his own feet and thus make India free. So this is very important. Even nowadays, we need people who are courageous enough to stand up against injustice. And at that time, any number of Indians standing up against injustice would lead the people towards a goal of getting freedom. Early in the Champaran action, Charles Freer Andrews, the English pacifist, who had become a devoted follower of the Mahatma, came to bid Gandhi farewell before going on a tour of duty to the Fiji Islands. So Charles Freer Andrews, English pacifist, person who believes in peace, right? So just like Gandhi, he was a believer of non-violence. So he came to say goodbye to him. Gandhi's lawyer friends thought it would be a good idea for Andrews to stay in Champaran and help them. Andrews was willing if Gandhi agreed. So at that time, right, Gandhi's lawyers, friends, see the lawyers who were not ready to support Gandhi, they said, we'll go back to our homes if you go to prison. Later on, they also had a change of heart. They realized their mistakes. They started working for that cause. Now they are also wondering whether Andrews will stay here and help them if Gandhi agreed. But Gandhi was vehemently opposed. He said, no, I don't want any outsider supporting. He said, you think that in this unequal fight, it would be helpful if we have an Englishman on our side? So he's telling the lawyers once again, you're wrong. You think if we have an Englishman on our side, it will make our movement more successful, right? Because it is unequal. The British are so powerful and the peasants who might get easily scared because of the strength of the Britishers. So he says, this shows the weakness of your heart. The cause is just, and you must rely upon yourselves to win the battle. So you should rely on yourself. You should be so brave enough that if I'm raising a voice against this injustice, I have the courage to continue. I don't need any outside support. I don't need someone from the other side to come and help me. If my cause is just, I will automatically get justice, right? The cause is just, and you must rely upon yourselves to win the battle. You should not seek a prop in Mr. Andrews because he happens to be an Englishman. Prop means, yes, to make it more effective, right? To add to the meaning of that movement. He had read our minds correctly, Rajendra Prasad comments, and we had no reply. Gandhi in this way taught us a lesson in self-reliance. Self-reliance, depend on yourself. Don't depend on others to come and fight for you. Self-reliance, Indian independence, and help to sharecroppers were all bound together. So it was not just one thing, it was not one cause that was being fought. It was not only about sharecropping. It was about so many things. The peasants, they learned to stand up for themselves. They had a courage now that, yes, if one person is there standing for them, they all united, showed their strength, showed that we are not afraid of these people, right? And yes, we can fight our own cause. We don't need outsiders. We don't need Britishers. No, thank you, right? So they all were bound together in this cause, right? And this resulted in this big change the thinking of the Indian people, right? It changed the thinking of the Britishers also. They got scared that these people had never questioned our authority. Now see what is happening. The peasant who was there considered to be so helpless, so weak, right? They learned courage. They learned to stand up against the authorities. So it's a beautiful chapter. It's an extract, right, from the book by Louis Fisher. And yes, it tells about that how this episode was such a turning point, not only in Gandhi's life, but in the Indian struggle for independence. Now, can we go to the questions, please? Why do you think Gandhi considered the Champaran episode to be a turning point in his life? So how was it? He learned that no one can order him around in his own country, right? And he learned that, yes, he has to fight for the cause of independence. And he learned that if he taught the people courage, self-reliance, it go a long way in bringing about a revolution. How was Gandhi able to influence the lawyers? Give instances. So how was he able to influence the lawyers? What did he tell them? Right? He told them that if he was sent to prison, when he was arrested and when a notice was served to him, okay? And so he said that if I am sent to prison, what will you do? And the lawyer said, we'll also go back. But later on, after they had consultations among themselves, they realized that Gandhi, being an outsider, is ready to go to prison for our sake. We belong here. Why can't we do anything? So they also decided to fight for this cause, right? And of course, what did Gandhi say at that time? The battle of Champaran is won. When the people realize, when the people awaken, when the people get together. Now, what was the attitude of the average Indian in smaller localities towards advocates of home rule? So the average Indian wanted to support, but they were afraid of the might of the Britishers, that what action they might take against people who are supporting the home rule. Like here, when Gandhi goes to Rajendra Prasad's house, right? So here it was there. So people did keep had a problem there, that they were scared that if the Britishers came to know, and so it was very rare for the people to lend that kind of support. How do we know that ordinary people too contributed to the freedom movement? We've learned from this incident. Ordinary people, the peasants, right? The people there, students were there, so many people were there, right, who were involved in the freedom movement. And yes, so it was later on when he calls the volunteers to Champaran, right? So the teachers are coming, the doctors are coming, and so all these people were there involved in the movement in some way or the other. Okay. Now look at these questions. Freedom from fear is more important than legal justice for the poor. Absolutely correct. Do you agree with it? Do you think that the poor of India are free from fear after independence? So many years after independence, are they free from fear? How many people go to courts seeking justice? How many of them don't even raise the issue? thinking that no, we're not going to get justice. So it is very, very important here that people should be free. They should have faith in the system. And only when they have the faith, then only they will go for justice. Otherwise, so many instances of cruelty happen, right? There are so many cases of injustice, but the people, because of the fear of the courts, because of the fear of the authorities, they don't go and report. The qualities of a good leader. You can think about Mahatma Gandhi as a leader. You can think about Rajkumar Shukla as a leader. And what are the qualities, right? So yes, leadership qualities have to be there. He should understand the problem. He should be able to unite the people, right? All these things here. And of course, not to resort to unnecessary violence. Have we come across any act of violence? The only act of violence was when one of the peasants was maltreated or mistreated by the Britishers, right? Yes, so let's just revise this chapter once again, all of you students. Yeah, let's have a look here, all of you, please. We're just summarizing the chapter once again, right? You have a test also today, so it's very important that you listen. So how did this whole episode begin? Rajkumar Shukla, he came to meet Gandhi at the Lucknow convention, right? And he requested him for time to come to Champaran and see the problem of the peasants. And what did Gandhi do? He promised that, yes, he's coming to, another writer is coming to Kolkata, yes, for a convention. And he asked Rajkumar Shukla to meet him over there. And surprising, when he reached over there, Rajkumar Shukla was there waiting for him. And before that also, when Gandhi had come to Lucknow, he followed him everywhere. He went to Kanpur, he even went to the Ahmedabad with him and made him promise. Let's see, you have to look into the condition of the peasants of Champaran, right? So when Shukla met Gandhi, where did they go to? They went to Muzaffarpur. They stayed at the house of Rajendra Prasad. Talking about other, very popular names which he talks about, who were all there supporting. And then, yes, Gandhi decided to go to Champaran, but he was unable to reach that place. On the way only, he was sent a notice, right? The person came, all right, he got this legal notice that he cannot stay here, he has to go back. But Gandhi, yeah, he received the notice, but he said, I will not go back. And whenever he went to the headquarters and asking for information, but he was not given any kind of information. The authorities were not cooperating. Now what happened? He's proceeding, right? Yes, towards Champaran. On the way, he gets this news about the peasant being mistreated, and he goes to see that, but he is sent back. Then what happens? The next day, he has to appear in court. And when the peasants, when the people, they come to know that the person who's going to fight for their case is going to be sent to prison, they come in large numbers to support him. And the Britishers are very surprised, very shocked to see people in such large numbers. This has never ever happened before. Gandhi has refused the orders. The peasants coming out in large numbers. What is happening? Right? So here, yes, what was there? Then, he went to the court, and the court did not take any action, right? In fact, it was delayed. And later on, with the passage of time, the case was dropped. He was not given any kind of punishment. He was not given any sentence. During this instant, what happened? What about the lawyers? What about the lawyers? They also realized that Gandhi is ready to go to prison. They also realized that they have to stand up for the cause of the people, because the lawyers were one major factor that the peasants had to undergo so much of suffering, right? They had to pay compensation. The lawyers made them sign these agreements. The thugs came, the landlords were forcing them. So it was a very difficult situation. And when the lawyers realized their mistake, they realized when Gandhi, yes, he was annoyed at them that you were charging such a high fee. You're creating fear among the people. Right? So then, of course, here they had these consultations, and yes, so they supported Gandhi, right? So later on, right, then, of course, the whole sequence of events took place. A commission was formed to look into the matter of sharecropping, and Gandhi was there as a representative of the peasants, right? And how did it start? He wanted, the peasants thought that they would ask for full compensation back, but Gandhi agreed for 50%. And then the landlords, they kept on, like, of course, holding back the negotiations. They were not ready to get 50%. And one of them said, okay, 25%. And Gandhi agreed for 25%, surprisingly. And later on, he said, why did he do that? Why did he agree for 25%? Because according to him, it was not the amount of money that was surrendered, but along with the money, what was surrendered? The pride. Yes, the pride of the Britishers, of the landlords who had thought themselves to be so superior, to so strong. So they had to bow down before the peasants. And with the passage of time, the land also reverted back to the peasants, and the sharecropping system, it stopped. And this here, it was along with a lot of other changes. It was not only political, it was not only economical, but cultural, social changes which happened in the life of the peasants, right? So the poverty, extreme poverty which they lived in, they did not have access to any kind of health medical facilities, right? So Gandhi called teachers, he taught these people about sanitation, about hygiene. And yes, he called the doctors who gave them what? Ointments and castor oil and quinine, and for the various sulfur was there for the various problems that these peasants were facing. Okay, so it was a very, very important episode which taught about so many things. And yes, we have all heard about that, how this way of Mahatma Gandhi's manner of working, what was it called? Satyagrah, right? The fight, or you can say for truth, right? And in his Satyagrah, he never ever resorted to violence. So it was a non-violent movement. That was the beauty of this whole movement, right? So I would like you to just have a look at this little video. Let me see. Please have a look.
Can you say more? What is Satyagraha?
Yes, well, as I say, it's clinging to truth, but in the way we're using it here, it's clinging to truth in conflict. The truth being that we are all one, and there must be a solution to any dilemma which would be beneficial to both parties, though it may not seem that way. For example, we have the British Raj was ruling India. Gandhi believed deeply that it was harmful to the British, probably more harmful to them than it was to the subject Indians. So Satyagraha means identifying a cause for which you are prepared to sacrifice and being ready to enter into a struggle, again, to get redress for those grievances without injuring the well-being of the opponent. So it's carrying out nonviolent principles in a conflictual situation.
So it is very difficult to maintain self-control, to not resort to violence in a situation of conflict, right? So we really admire the manner in which whole this movement was conducted, right? And yes, so when you talk about Satyagraha, so the way Gandhi dealt with the Britishers in a non-violent manner has always been an example for the world to give, right? So with this, we come to the end of the chapter, and let's have a look at the questions. So we have here about the leadership qualities of Mahatma Gandhi. We have done all the questions here which are related, and yes, you can see to these questions here. Do you remember? Why did Gandhi agree to a settlement of 25% refund to the farmers? Why did he agree? Because what was important? That was not the money that mattered, but the Britishers, along with the money they surrendered or they gave up their prestige, the reputation that they had, the position that they held, right? So they bowed down before the peasants. And the peasants also realized that these people are not above law. These people are not above any kind of authority, right? So they're not a law unto themselves. How did the episode change the plight of the peasants? So here it is, when this question is asked, I want you to give an answer related to all the aspects in which their lives changed. So one episode which went a long way in bringing about a sea change in the condition of the peasants. So it was not only about, yes, justice. It was much more than that. It was not only a political cause, or it was not economic compensation that they got. But more than that, they learned about life. They learned about how to live. They learned about, sanitation, hygiene, about education, about their health. They realized that they are human beings. So many things here which were taught to these people, okay? Right? And so all of you, please go through them here, right? So the events in this part of text illustrate Gandhi's methods of working. Can you identify some instances of this method and link them to his ideas of satyagraha and non-violence? So now I've just discussed satyagraha with you, or I've shown it to you, and we can relate his work. So fighting for a cause, right? Fighting for truth and remaining non-violent in that state of conflict. So it's a very, very important lesson that we have learned, okay? So what about the leaders here that we have learned? The ordinary people. Apart from Mahatma Gandhi, who is one person that we remember when we talk about the Champaran episode? It is Rajkumar Shukla, right? So please read this, go through it. Any doubts, any questions? Yeah, you're most welcome to ask me.